Now, so the first thing I want to do today is I want to talk about short answer questions. If you have the capacity to, if you can open up, I'm going to share my screen as well, but if you can go to our Google Classroom stream and you can open up, I just posted maybe 20 minutes ago a sample document explaining how to do a short answer question. The reason we're starting with short answer questions, there are 4 parts to the AP exam and I feel like it is the simplest. So I want to start with the easiest and then work our way up. So if you know what you're talking about, short answer questions are usually pretty simple. In fact, they're very similar to a reading quiz in terms of length. They're about a paragraph apiece. So if you want to pull that up, I am now going to share my screen. So you can see what I've posted. So this is a document that is like an overview of the process. This is, I've told you, you should probably download all the things I post in the stream and save them in a Google Drive somewhere, but this is definitely one you're gonna want, because this one-page overview is something that you will need probably every time we take a test, at least the first couple times. And in May, when we're getting ready for the AP test, this is probably a good thing to look at. So you wanna make sure, maybe you have a separate folder for like test prep. This would be where that would go, all right? So if you have the ability to save it on a hard drive or in a Google Drive, I would do that now. Well, Mr. Rich, I don't want to miss what you're teaching, so I'll do it later. Do it now. The longer you wait, the less likely it is you're going to do it. And you know that's true. Because after this class, you're going to have lunch, you might take a nap, you might take a walk, which is all good. I don't care what you do. It's your business. But the more stuff you do, the more likely you are to forget what you have here. All right? So this is called Short Answers, SAQ. Again, this is the same format you'll see in APUSH next year. And if you're goofy enough to decide to take me in AP World in 2 years, it'll be the same format you see then. So that means that after we struggle a little bit this year to get good at this stuff, next year will be so much easier because you already know how to play the game of the test. And that means that you are more than likely going to do just as well as you do this year, or probably even better, assuming you don't get a 5, because you have figured out the game and all you got to do is worry about learning the content, which makes it easier. All right, so it's a short answer question. It is not an essay. I'm not going to read to you, but I'm going to give you the broad strokes. You must always answer and complete questions. No bullet points. Feel free to add that in if you have that capacity. No bullet points. These are sentences. This is not middle school, thank goodness. These are sentences. Okay? And you're writing a paragraph, typically 3 to 5 sentences. Typically. I'm not saying a great answer can't be 2 sentences. If you like compound complex sentences with semicolons, you can write more in 1 or 2 sentences with that format than you can in 4 simple sentences. But in general, it's 3 to 5 sentences. Okay? You have 3 separate parts to each question. So there will be an A, a B, and a C often. Okay? All related to the same topic. I'll show you an example here in a minute. Sometimes you will have 2 parts to A or B. So it might give 2 reasons for A and 1 for B, and you won't have a C. Obviously, the key to this is you got to read the questions carefully. The most important part of any test is reading the question carefully, because you guys are smart kids. You're going to put in the work. I'm going to teach you what you need to know. For most of the time, the hardest part is going to be making sure you're doing the right thing, because we all get in a hurry. We all get nervous on tests sometimes. And so when you're nervous and in a hurry, you make mistakes. And not what you know, but what you see or didn't see. So I'm a big fan of, and this is your choice, but I'm a big fan of you underlining or circling parts of the question just to make sure you don't miss it. And I know that may seem elementary for some of you, but I'm a big fan of the underline or the circle. Okay? So it says the questions are subdivided, blah, 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 blah. So all those parts are labeled separately. So if you look at the question and go, I don't know what A means, you skip it, you go to B. It doesn't mean the whole question's out. It's you didn't get A, but you can get B and you can get C. All right? How I grade these in class is that if you get 2 of the 3 parts, I will give you credit for that question. I will also obviously do the same if you get 3 of 3 parts. If you get 1 or 0 of the 3 parts, I do not give you credit for that question. Okay? So each question is worth 1 point in my class. If you get 2 of the 3 parts, you get 2, you get the point. If you get 1 or less, you don't get the point. So that's how it works in my class. All right? Now, I'm not going to get into the 4th bullet point for right now. We will get into that later. But you see it says that there are 3 questions and they have 3 different kind of things they're doing. We'll look at what all that is later. For right now, you don't have to worry about that. Questions 1 and 2 are required. You have to do them. Question 3, there will be 2 options. You pick one. Questions 1 and 2 have sources you're looking at, either a reading, a painting, a map, a chart, a graph, etc. And you're answering questions mostly based on what you see or read. Question 3, where you have a choice, is just you knowing historical stuff we've studied. There are no stimuli, there are no prompts. It's just, here's what you need to tell me. And there's nothing to look at or read. It's just your own knowledge. So 2 of the questions require you to look at something and interpret it. The 3rd question asks you to just it's short and sweet, and you either know it or you don't. But you get 2 choices, so hopefully out of the 2, you surely know 1. All right? Now, my favorite point on this handout is the 5th bullet point there. Very short, but it's important. Answer the question it's asking, not what you wish it's asking. Now, you guys have taken a lot of tests in your life. What is the easiest way to make sure the person grading your answer knows what you're answering? How can you let me know?
Restating the question?
Yep, you can restate the question. Now, you don't have to. Let me be very clear. And if you're not taking notes, you should be. You can restate the question. That is a guaranteed way usually to make that 5th bullet point not be a problem. An example of 3 or 4 words of what the question says is blank. That's a good idea. You don't have to. If you're a great writer, if you feel like you really know this material well and it's beneath you to restate the question, I'm okay with that. But I want to tell you a brief story. If you had AP last year, I know Mr. McDonald has been a reader for AP Human Geography for a long time. If you had Mr. McDonald, did he ever tell you how the grading works? Did he talk about what they do to grade your AP test? Anybody, does yes or no?
Don't they just sort of like split it so that a certain number of people pass and a certain number of people don't?
Kind of, yes, and that's in the ballpark. Basically, they're looking for a pass rate usually between like 40, 45, 50, 58. For most tests, they don't want an 85% pass rate. Now, some tests like calculus, you're only going to take calculus if you're already pretty good at math. So the kids that are kind of sketchy with math aren't taking AP calculus. So the pass rate for that kind of exam tends to be much, much higher because by definition, you're generally not going to take an upper level math class unless you're good at math. Okay? AP World, what did y'all have to do to take this class? Did you have to like take a test or prove anything? Or no, you're in this class because you wanted to be, and that's the way it should be, and I believe in that. But what that means is our pass rate is typically in the low to mid 50s. If they had 80% pass rate one year, we'd all be happy. I'd be happy, you'd be happy, your parents would be happy, Dr. Noose would be happy. Who wouldn't be happy if we had an 80% pass rate one year? Who's the other part of this equation? Why are you taking this class and this test ultimately?
College Board.
Yep. Colleges and universities would not be pleased because that means every class you don't take on their campus is money they don't get from you. And do you think that's especially important? I don't know, say right now in the middle of a pandemic where some kids are opting to take a year off or some kids aren't in dorms and colleges are losing a lot of money from that? Can you see why the College Board has already said we're going to have a test this year that is full length and in person, even though we still don't know all those details? They had to say that because colleges are like, bro, we ain't giving full college credit for one essay like last year. Because in AP World last year, you wrote one essay. It was a 50-minute test where ordinarily it's 3 hours and 10 minutes. So you need to understand this is a game. And how this game works is someone will grade all short answer number 1. That's all they're going to do. They're not going to read number 2, number 3, or any of the other essays. And they're going to sit there for 7 days and grade probably 1,000 short answer number 1s, maybe 1,500, 2,000. It just kind of depends. The same thing over and over and over and over again. What might happen to that person on day like 5? Are they going to be sharp and focused perhaps? Do you find yourself struggling at the end of even 4 hours of online learning? If you have live instruction, fourth period, is that sometimes more difficult than it was in the morning? Yeah, because at some point you just get tired. It's human nature. It just is. Staring at a screen is not easy. Trust me, I know. I'm more than twice your age, so I definitely get it. So the point is, anything you can do to make grading easier for your grader, you're more than likely going to get credit from them. So here's my point for that whole long 5-minute story. Restating the question makes it easier on your grader to see what you're doing. If you can make it easier on your grader, they're more likely to give you the credit. So I'm going to encourage all of you to restate the question in your short answers. It makes it easier for the grader, because how many people are going to grade your AP test? Now, in the beginning, they tend to have more experienced people looking over their shoulder, double checking. But usually after the first day, that stops because we don't have time. The experienced people have to grade too. So pretty much after the first day, I know because I've graded AP tests. I work in the summer, so I can't every year, but I did one time years ago. And what I learned was if you show you're pretty good the first day, they leave you alone. They only double check the people that are problems or can't get it right. So I didn't have any trouble after the first day. I didn't get double checked once. One person's going to read your essay, your short answer, your whatever, one time. One time, that's it. So you need to make sure that you make it easy on them to see what's up. So restating the question is your friend. Hope I made that clear. And some of you won't, and I won't make you, but it's a bad idea not to. All right, the bottom. What might a response look like? You are going to do CEE, C. And I don't care, you don't have to say this or whatever, but it's what you're doing. You are making a claim, also known as an argument. You're answering the question. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay? You are making an argument. You are providing evidence for that argument because blank. Here's my evidence. Here's why I know that. You're either getting something out of the document you see, or it's your own historical knowledge about the topic. Either one works. And then lastly, you're saying why that evidence answers the question. Claim, evidence, explain. Claim or argument, evidence, explain. That's your pattern. So you're going to do that for 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3B, 3C. Now, eventually we're going to do 3 of these questions in 50 minutes. That's 9 parts in 50 minutes. Excuse me, 40 minutes. All right, you have 40 minutes to do those 3 questions. 9 parts. That's about 4.5 minutes per part. Now, we are not ready for that yet. If you're thinking that seems like a lot, yeah, we'll move up. For right now, we're going to try 1 part together. And I know you know this material because we've already talked about it. Okay? So about 4.5 minutes per part. You got to, and that includes reading the question and thinking about it. Now, the other thing I will tell you that is required in Mr. Rich's class, always, on any essay, short answer, etc., you must do what is called pre-writing. Pre-writing can be a couple bullet points where you think about your answer. Pre-writing could be a Venn diagram. Pre-writing could be a T-chart, you know, whoop, and you put this side and that side. Pre-writing could be a practice topic sentence for an essay, a thesis, if you will. But if you don't pre-write, I don't grade. Let me say that one more time. No pre-writing equals no grade. Well, Mr. Rich, I don't need to. I have never met a 15-year-old that is good enough at this that doesn't need to practice before they start. Mr. Rich, you've never seen me. You're right. You are the smartest kid I've had in 17 years. I'm sure you are. I appreciate that you're self-confident. I appreciate that some of you think you're brilliant. That's great, because self-confidence will go a long way in life. But again, I'm not impressed because you're intelligent. I'm smart. My friends are smart. My students are smart. I don't really hang out with dumb people except for extended family reunions. Some of my extended family are kind of stupid, but you know, whatever. I just don't. So you being smart is not like, wow, you're smart. Some of your teachers, you intimidate because you're smarter than them and they know it. You don't need to say yes or no, but have you ever had that experience in a classroom? You could tell your teacher was like, because they were afraid you knew more than they did and they didn't want to look dumb. And you're trying to be nice about it, so you try to be like, oh, I didn't know. Okay? And you may be smarter than me. It's quite possible that you have a higher IQ than me. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I've forgotten more history than you know. So you're not going to fool me. You're not going to intimidate me. I need you to pre-write. It's a requirement. It is not a discussion. It is not a debate. When I get these short answers from you, if I see there's no pre-writing, I don't even read your answer. You get a 0. So is everyone clear on this? No pre-write, no grade. This is not a discussion. This is not a democracy. Mr. Rich is your dictator. You're welcome. If I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. And until I ask for it, I don't want your opinion. All right, this is how we're going to play this game. Okay? So let's look at a sample and see how this goes. So this is one based on a topic. Now you're going to want to try to answer this. So if you have paper, if you want to type, that's fine. We'll talk through one together. I'm going to put you on small groups and let you talk through the other parts. We have a quote from Jared Diamond, the worst mistake in the history. We read that. Now, you will often see sources you haven't read. That's okay. You can read. But when you see one you do know, should that kind of make you a little less nervous? Yeah, because you already kind of sort of know what this dude said. So everybody take a second and read that paragraph, and then we're going to talk about it for about 30 seconds. This should look familiar. The argument should be familiar. When you're looking for an argument, oftentimes you'll find it either in the first sentence or the last sentence. I'm not saying skip the middle, but sometimes they give sources where someone kind of sort of goes back and forth, and then at the end they say what they think. So when in doubt, go with either the first or the last sentence, and that will usually tell you. What is his main idea? Oh, come on. I'm too ugly to be this close to a camera. Come on.
That farming was the worst mistake we made.
Yeah, just like we said it was last week when we talked about this. Come on, people. The less y'all talk, the more it's going to be awkward for you because I'm going to start making you talk because I know y'all know this. Okay, the farming's the worst mistake. So let's look at A. So again, I'm giving 3 to 5 sentences. Claim. What's our next letter? It's CEE. What does that stand for? Claim. So it's an argument.
Evidence.
Evidence. So what's your evidence? And then explain. Claim, evidence, explain. Claim, evidence, explain. Claim, evidence, explain. Always, every time. For A, for B, for C. Okay? By the way, I'm going to switch my screen real quick. How much space do I have to write this? You get one 8.5 by 11 page per question. And there'll be a box on that page. Here is a sample essay from 2 years ago. Now you can't see the lines. They do have lines, but they didn't copy. So this is handwritten. And you see on this page only, do not write outside the box. So if you write outside the box, it doesn't count. So what happens if I write my A statement and then go, oh crap, that's wrong. You have to write in pen, blue or black pen. No pencil. So what happens if I write the first paragraph and then realize I messed it up? You don't get extra space. You scratch that out and you just have less space to write in. So before you start writing, that's why we pre-write. You need to make sure you know what you're doing. Because once you start writing, you don't get that space back. It's like, can I go to the bathroom during the AP test? Sure. But the clock doesn't stop when you go to the bathroom. So before the AP test, we don't drink 100 ounces of water. Well, Mr. Rich, that's what I do every day because I work out. Cool, but not that day. Because if you got to go pee 4 times during the AP test, you don't get that time back. So it's not smart. All right, so you see there's the A, you see B labeled, and then you see C, and they left a little bit of space. But they label it A, they label it B, they label it C. I want you to do the same. You're going to label your letters. So why do you do that? So the grader can easily see what you're doing. You're going to label your response. If you're not writing that down, write it down or type it up. The most annoying thing to me outside of not coming to class, when I have to tell you to take notes, if I'm explaining it, it's important. Especially right now, and you've heard me say this, but I'm going to repeat myself, we're at 40% of our time. If I'm saying it, it has value. I'm cutting out a lot of stuff right now. So if I'm giving you an explanation, you need to know it. I don't need to tell you to take notes because I'm watching you. I notice you aren't. It annoys me, and then I spend a minute talking about it. And every minute I spend talking about things you should be doing is a minute I don't talk about content you need to know. And some of you will be fine because you'll read the textbook and you'll figure it out. Some of you know right now, you need me to get through this. Some of you don't. You're good enough at history, you don't need me. I just try not to get in your way. Some of y'all know you do because you don't get it when you read and you need me to help you. Every second I spend doing something else, like getting on your case for not taking notes, is a second I can't spend helping you learn content. So just remember that. Well, Mr. Rich, you don't have to call us out. I will always call you out. So if you don't want me to call you out, stop doing things that get you called out. Very simple. Okay, there's your A, there's your B, there's your C. What if I answer B first and then C and then I think of A? Can I put it at the bottom? Yes, you can go out of order. That's fine. As long as you label it clearly and your grader can see it, that's no problem. So you have a little bit of space there at the end, but you cannot like start number 2 at the bottom. No. You cannot continue this answer onto the next page. No. You get one box for 3 paragraphs. That's it. That's why we pre-write first to get ready. So when we put pen to paper, we feel pretty good about what we're saying. All right. So that's the kind of space you get. Let's go back. So let's do A together. Identify one specific historical example that corroborates the claim made by Jared Diamond. Now that's a fairly fancy word. Does anyone know what that word means? Corroborate.
Supports.
Yes, supports. Well, Mr. Rich, how do I know that? Well, look at B. B says that refutes. What does it mean to refute?
To disagree with?
Yeah, so they're opposite each other. Why would they have 2 questions that say the same thing? Would that make any sense? No. Now they could say, give 2 examples that corroborate. Yes, that's how they would do that. But if they have A and B separate, they're going to ask you different things. They're not going to ask you the same question twice. So you just got to figure out which one's good, which one's bad. And if you don't know, I guess you just guess and hope you get lucky. Well, Mr. Rich, what if I did it backwards? Will I get credit? No. This is why when you're reading your textbook or when you're in class with me, and if there is a word you don't know, you should ask. I will use words sometimes you may not know. And I can see on your face you don't know the word, but sometimes we get embarrassed or we think people will think we're not smart. If I don't use words you don't know, and I've got about 25 years on you and a whole lot more education than you do, I should know words you don't know. My job is to help you improve your vocabulary, not to go down to your level. So you should just say, what does that mean? If you're reading your textbook. Now, you don't need to know every single word, but if it's a word in a headline, you're like, I don't know what that means. You should probably look it up, or otherwise you don't know what you're getting ready to get into. So corroborates means supports. So if you need to look at your notes, feel free. But what is one reason that we discussed that Jared Diamond says this is the worst thing that's ever happened?
Disease.
Disease. Okay, so if we're going to say disease, what would our first sentence be? We need to make a claim. Go ahead, Mihir.
One historical example that corroborates the claim made by Jared Diamond is the likelihood of disease and defects in the people at that time.
Sure. Now, the only thing I would add on is just to make sure you know what you're saying, that corroborates Jared Diamond's claim that agriculture is the worst mistake in human history, is that what you just said. Okay? So let's do that again. One specific example that corroborates, so you could say agree with if you want to. You can change the words. The claim made by Jared Diamond that agriculture is the worst mistake that humans have ever made is that people get disease more often after agriculture is introduced. That's a claim. That's an argument. Okay? Now I need some evidence. Somebody else besides me here. and they take his argument and provide evidence for that. Why would we see more disease when people are in agricultural societies?
Could
Any
it
thoughts? I'm sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
could it be because they're like living closer together and getting sick and working?
Yeah, we need to dress that up a little bit, but yes, that's broadly correct. Agricultural societies feature humans living closer together than previous systems. If you wanted to say than hunter-gatherers, you can, or if you can just say previous ways of living or something like that. Okay? When you're closer together, you're going to get disease. Lastly, we need an explanation. Why is that the case? Why does living closer help cause disease? And this is super easy. Why is that bad? Because our argument is this is bad. So why does living closer together make people get sicker more often? And why is that a bad thing? Which shouldn't be difficult, but you still have to say it. You don't assume anything. You explain. You don't assume, you explain. Okay? Anybody want to take a shot at that one? Why does living closer together help make us sicker? Let's start with that part.
Maybe the closer they are together, the more easier it is to spread from person to person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Does that sound like someone who has a PhD in epidemiology, which is a science about disease spreads? No, it does not. You know what it sounds like? A 15-year-old kid. And fortunately for you, you are a 15-year-old kid, and that's what you need to sound like. Which is why I can always tell when y'all cheat on stuff like this, because you usually cheat making yourself sound like you have a doctorate. You don't. It's okay to sound like a 15-year-old doing this for the first time. Now, I could hear kind of the hesitancy in your voice, but I can also tell it in your writing when you write. And that's good. That's fine. It's authentic. Don't try to be something you're not. That's why your notebook shouldn't sound like it's written by a 65-year-old white guy, because that's the author of your textbook. You're not 65-year-old white guys. So you shouldn't sound like that. I will say ain't and y'all all the time because I'm a middle-aged white guy coming from the south end of Louisville. I grew up off Dixie Highway. I went to PRP High School. South End for life, okay? So I say ain't, I say y'all. Is that appropriate English? No, I don't care. Now, when I'm writing an essay, I try to remove that. If I'm writing a recommendation letter, I don't speak that way. But when I'm writing about or talking about normal things, I will speak in the language that I know, which is not always formal and not always academically correct. That's okay. You can use contractions. Is it great writing? Not really, but it's fine. Someday when you're applying for a job, you probably shouldn't put that in your resume, but for right now, it'll work. So don't worry about being perfect. You're not going to be. If you misspell a word, that's okay. If we can tell what it is, it'll work. What we're focusing on, kiddos, is the ideas, not necessarily the format of the ideas as much. Now, second part, why is people getting sick or bad? Come on, it's so easy, it's hard. Why is more people getting sick bad?
They had no cure, so everyone just died when they got sick.
Okay, well, slight correction. Generally avoid absolute answers. They had minimal scientific knowledge, so as more people got sick, there was little the civilizations could do at that time to prevent further spread, which often resulted in serious illness or death. Some version of that. Don't say everybody died, because then why are we here? And I know you didn't mean that, but I have to take you literally with what you say. So what you put on paper is what I'm going to grade, not what I think you mean. Because I can't crawl inside your head and get what you're thinking. I can only see and grade what you write. So again, let's go through that. One historical example that corroborates or supports the claim made by Jared Diamond that agriculture is the worst mistake in human history is that more humans get disease in agricultural societies. This is due to the fact that agricultural societies often settle permanently in close proximity or distance from other humans. They interact more often than previous systems like hunter-gatherers. Because they interact more often for lengthy periods of time, when one person gets sick, it will easily spread to their neighbors and friends or whatever. This illness These illnesses, because early humans lacked medical knowledge, could not be stopped generally and often led to severe illness or even death. That's a paragraph. Now, do I expect you to sound like me? No. I'm better at this than you are. I'm old and I've been doing it for a long time. You may not quite be so polished. That's okay. Claim, evidence, explain. Does that make sense? Who has a question for me? Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to break you out. I'm wanting you to, in your small groups, to try to answer B and C on your own. Okay? Answer B and C on your own. Mr. Rich, A says identify, B and C say explain. What do we? You're going to explain every answer, period. We're always explaining. So it doesn't matter what the verb is, we're doing an explanation regardless. But Mr. Rich, we're explaining regardless. Not debatable. We can debate a lot of things, and you can tell me you think this is wrong, and I'll listen, and I might agree with you after you get done because you did a good job. But this is not debatable. You're always explaining, always. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully you have this up in front of you so you can see it. But one more time, anybody have any questions before we get started? All right, I'm going to go through and take attendance because some of you weren't here when we started. I'm going to say it again. 10 a.m. is 10 a.m. Some of you are already starting to slightly annoy me, and I don't know you very well yet because you're rolling in at 10:02, 10:03, 10:04. That ain't good. I tell people all the time, I'm a public school teacher. I have to take what I get. I don't have any selection in who you are and how you get in my class. But I decide if you stay. Well, Mr. Rich, this is hard. If you got on at 10:03, why couldn't you get on at 9:57? It's because you chose to try to get on at 10 and it took a while. That's not okay. If I started class late every day, at some point, some of y'all would get annoyed because I'm missing time on instruction with you. And you know what? That's a fair thing. I should start class on time. I get annoyed when I start class and I have to close my door because some of my colleagues are still in the hallway talking after the bells rang. Like, I like my colleagues. I want to socialize and hang out with them, but I'll do that on my own time, not when I should be teaching my class. So if that's the expectation for me, it's no different for you. So those of you that came in a couple minutes late, that needs to be fixed. Because if you can't show up on time, then I don't know if this is the right place for you. We're here to be excellent, kids. We're not here to be average. We're not here to try. Trying is great, but that's like middle school level. I expect more than try. I expect your best, and showing up 4 minutes late is not your best, and you know it's not. So I don't want to have to speak to this again. But when I started class, I had 20 people. Right now, I have 28. Fix it. Do your best. If you need help with something, let me know. Other than that, suck it up and be here on time. Period. The end. Hope I've made myself clear because this is now the third time I've talked about it in 40 minutes. All right, you're in a breakout room. Do B and C. We'll talk about it. Or you will be in a minute as I set it up. All right, you are in 7 rooms with 3 or 4 people. Please accept. So I'm going to ask group 3, which was Carter, Lucy, Matthew, and Maya. Can you guys share what answer did you put for B? What was your claim?
We said with agriculture came advancements of technology because people settled down and became more civil.
Okay. And I think that's a good answer, except for one thing. That's not specific. What is an example of technology? I see some of you going, oh, then I'm talking to you as well. That's okay. That's why we do this. I expect you to make mistakes. Specific, how or why. Specific, how or why. Technology is not specific. What is an example of a technology that early humans will have, maybe that you're creating?
Farming tools?
What?
Farming tools?
True, but also not specific. Give me an example.
Plows, hoes.
Plows, yes. Take the first one you said, plows. Yes, because we develop a plow. Okay, that's your claim. You should probably throw in that we're disagreeing or refuting Jared Diamond, because that's what the prompt is. But yes, a plow. And guys, I know it's frustrating. I know some of you go, you need to be specific. And I'm going to say this over and over and over, so much so that on the AP test, after you've had me for 8 months, you can't help but be specific, because you're going to hear my loud, scratchy, annoying voice in your head that day going specific, specific, specific. Because here, I will make you a promise right now. Every single one of you will know enough content to pass the AP test. What if I don't do my homework? That's not good. You're not going to get a 5. But I'm going to teach you enough. I'm going to force you to know enough that you will know enough content to get a 3. The reason why some of you won't is you're not naturally good at the skills we have, and you won't put in the practice you need to get there. Or frankly, some of you on test day are just going to make silly mistakes. Like not being specific after I've told you for 8 months to be specific every single day. You get nervous. Sometimes you just do silly things. It happens. Okay? My man Donovan Mitchell had an awesome series. And the next to last play, he got stripped and lost the ball last night. And some people are going to be like, Donovan Mitchell sucked. Donovan Mitchell averaged 36 points a game for 7 games. But he turned the ball over at the end, and his team didn't win. Now, I would say that's not his fault, because he was their best player by far. But some people look at only the last result and say, that's who you are, fairly or unfairly. That's life. You might be the best candidate. You just have a bad interview that day. Unfair? Yeah. Life? Yes. So we got to get used to always being specific. So plow. So what is my evidence for this? What is my reasoning for why a plow would be good? What does a plow do? Same group. So group 3, I'm still with
Farms.
you. What?
It helps farm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's little on the broad side. A plow helps break up ground, right? Go ahead, continue.
Yes.
It makes the labor not as intensive, so it's like easier.
Excellent job, Maya. That sounds like an argument. I like that. Good. So it makes it makes it easier to plant crops. Do you think crops grow better if we put them on the surface or if we bury them in the ground?
Bury them.
Yeah. So a plow helps us do that easier. Because there's like some dirt, and we can put a seed in the ground and like put the dirt back on top of it. So that helps. So you need to explain that. Lastly, what is our explanation for this? Why is it good to make farming easier? What is the benefit that humans receive that disagrees with Jared Diamond's "this is the worst thing that ever happened"? More food equals what for humans?
More nutrition.
More nutrition, better health, all which equals what? Get to the final answer.
Longer life.
Longer life. Finish the argument. Don't stop halfway. Better nutrition in and of itself doesn't mean anything. The reason we should eat better, and I'm talking to myself, is because it in theory keeps us healthier and allows us to live a longer, more productive, more fulfilling life. That's the point. What's the point? One of the things I write on essays and short answers often is, so what? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just being honest. So what? Why is this important? You didn't tell me. Explain, don't assume. Well, Mr. Rich, obviously if you feed more people, if it's so obvious, then you say it. Don't make me figure it out, because I can't. I can't put words into your mouth or into your pen. You have to do that. Everybody understand? This isn't that hard once you get used to it. The biggest problem most kids have on short answers is either they're not fast enough, and that's why we practice, you'll get faster, or you don't explain stuff. You just kind of leave it dangling. Okay? It's like if somebody says, so, assuming we're in a non-pandemic time, what are you doing next weekend? Oh, I don't have anything planned. Cool. And they walk away. You're like, but what? You're assuming if they ask what you're doing next weekend and you say nothing, that the next question would be, hey, want to do something? Whether that's a friendly endeavor or a more romantic one, there's a follow-up. They just say, what are you doing? You're like, nothing. They go, cool. And they walk away. You're like, that was weird. That's what it is like to read some of your responses. You just kind of halfway go there and be like, hey, farming's good. Why? Why is it good? Explain. Claim, evidence, explain. Okay? C, group 6, which was Colin, Harrison, Luke, and Stellan. Can y'all give me your claim? Please. What's the result? Did y'all get that far?
Yeah, we said agriculture led directly to the creation of like civilization.
That's the answer you should have given. Yes. Why is that the answer you should have given? That's what we talked about last week, and that's what you're literally doing right now in your project, due next Tuesday. All right. What is your evidence for this?
Like when agriculture began, people began settling in areas, and like when enough people settle, it eventually forms like a civilization, I guess.
Harder to explain than you thought, huh? That's okay.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead,
it's like
Luke.
when there's more food, there means there can be more people and they live longer, and then you need more houses, so you need people to build those houses. So it like creates jobs, and then those people need to be able to do things. And since not everyone's focusing on getting food and just surviving, they can do more different things like art and music and culture, like
There you
sculpting,
go, Luke. You landed that plane.
carpentry.
That was good. That was good. You got there at the end. Nothing that makes us civilized will be accomplished unless we can feed our people first. I believe I said that earlier, right? And I know it's 11. I'll be done in 2 minutes. You can't do anything else. And you just gave like 5 examples, which was awesome, especially carpentry there at the end. That was my favorite. So you can't do anything else until you get enough food. Now, see some of you writing, feel free, you should add this in. If you think this is better than what y'all came up with, you should be writing this down. Again, I don't need to tell, do I need to send you an invitation? And Lillian, I'm just saying your name because you're next to me on the screen. Dear Lillian, please take notes in class. Thanks, Mr. Rich. No, I don't need to invite you. You know you need to do this. And I wasn't calling you out. You just have to be next to me. So it's kind of like if you're in the front row, I tend to like run into your desk accidentally because I move around the room a lot. And I'm a big guy and I got big arms and legs and I just run into people sometimes. Or I get excited sometimes when I talk a lot. Sometimes I spit. It's not good, but it happens. So there's always a warning, be careful in the front row. Anyway, it's like when you're next to me on the screen, I'm just gonna use you as an example sometimes. Then lastly, C, what is your explanation?
Is it still group 6?
Yeah, shoot, please.
So because you're farming and you have enough food and you can create all of your things like culture and buildings and jobs and economy and government, and you can create all of those civilization type things, and you have all of that, that leads to
That leads to what, Stella? And you cut out there at the very end. I'm sorry.
those are all results of agriculture. And so the question was, what are some results of agriculture? Some results of agriculture are you have more food, so you can have a civilization because you can provide for the people who need to do other things.
Awesome. Y'all did great. Y'all did great. So if you look at your schedule at the end of next week, you're going to have a sample. We'll talk about multiple choice next week, sample multiple choice and 2 sample short answers. I'm going to grade them for participation. So if you stink up the joint, it's okay. But next week at the end, you're going to get 2 of these to work on as homework. And so you have this model, hopefully, to help you do a good job. Because content's easy. I'm not worried about the content. It's more practicing the format. All right, y'all did excellent. Really, really good job today. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. for our support session class. If you have not made a calendar, you need to make a calendar, set a reminder on your phone, whatever, right now. 2 o'clock, same link. I will see you then. Any questions? All right, y'all did good work today. Very proud of you. Thank you. Enjoy your day. I'll see you tomorrow.